Hello everyone! In this video, we're going to show you how you can make your food last longer without using any preservatives that will be harmful to you or your family. Welcome back to Seed Time and Harvest. Today we will be talking about 4 methods that you can implement to make sure that you and your family have enough food to sustain you throughout a time of crisis. Well, let's ask this question. What is long-term food storage? Long-term food storage involves more than going to the grocery store and stocking up your pantry. Yes, that's a part of it, but there is more. You want to stock your pantry so that you will be able to have enough food to sustain you and your family in the event that there was a disruption in the food supply. Now, with this, there are items that you will definitely need to store. And if you were to go online and to do some research on what are some items that I need to put in my long-term pantry to ensure my survival, you will find that all these items are preserved implementing one of these 4 methods. So let's get into it. The first one we'll be talking about is dehydration. Dehydration is a tried and true ancient method of food preservation. What it involves is just removing all the moisture from your food so that it will store properly. This can be accomplished with the use of an oven. It can be done with the use of a dehydrator or with a plain old sun. Whatever you choose, it's based on what you have available. Now, when you dehydrate foods, they can last anywhere from 4 months up to a year, depending on the type of food, the storage conditions, and the temperature. So let me break that down for you. Your vegetables, you can dehydrate vegetables and have them stored for up to 6 months. Your fruits, you can have those stored up to a year. And if you were to cook rice, beans, grains, these can also be stored up to a year. And that depends again on how your food is preserved, how you are storing them. Now, there are some factors that will affect the shelf life of your dehydrated food, and we're going to get into this because the first one and most important, which I think about, is temperature. Bear in mind that when you are going through your food preservation, it's either in the oven, in the sun, or in your dehydrator. All this time, your food is being exposed to heat. Not only is the moisture being removed from the food, but you're also losing nutrients. When you expose that food later on to high temperatures, you are even further decreasing the shelf life of the food, removing the additional nutrients from the food, and you don't want that. So when you are storing your food, make sure that you're storing it in a cool, dark area. And that brings me to the moisture content. Taking out your food out the dehydrator, removing it from the oven. If it's warm, don't put it in your storage container yet. Allow it to cool down, because if you take that warm food, you put it in your mason jar or in a Mylar bag, you'll find that there is condensation, there is evaporation, which will result in moisture. That moisture will cause your food to mold. And it doesn't make sense, you're preparing for a long-term time of crisis and then get to the crisis and you realize, I can't use this food because it's all moldy. So we have to make sure that we're getting rid of the moisture completely, allowing your food to cool, or when you put it in your mason jar or your Mylar bag, you can use moisture absorbers that will further eliminate any moisture that's there. The location is the next factor that will affect your food storage. Make sure that you are putting it in an area where it can be secure, in a cool, dark area. You can put it in a shelf. You can put it in a cupboard. If you have food grade buckets, tote bins, these are great for food storage because not only will it reduce the exposure to light, it will also protect your food further from any moisture, from any pests, from any insect damage, anything that will be a danger to your food storage. And that just sums up with the containers. Glass jars are great for storing dehydrated food. Vacuum sealed bags are also a good option for you to store your dehydrated food. Whatever you have available. even before you get your jars, if you have simple Ziploc bags, you can put your foods in the Ziploc bag until you're able to get them in their permanent home. So that covers dehydration, but there is more. In addition to dehydration, the next method of food storage that you will implement to allow your food to last for a long time is canning. Canning is nice. I don't know about you, but I like canning food, especially when you hear that pop in the lid after you take them out of the water bath or the pressure canner. It's absolutely amazing. When you can your food, there are two ways that you will want to do that. Your low acid food, which would be your veggies, your potatoes, your root crops, you have to use pressure. Pressure is necessary to get rid of all the bacteria present in that food that will cause it to go bad. Now, if you have high acid food, which include your fruits, your tomato with added acid, you can use that in a water bath. And it's very simple. So if you've never canned before, I suggest that you get some fruits and put them in a water bath. You just need a container large enough to cover your lids up to about 1.5 inches, and you can process your fruits within that water bath. When you store food this method, your food will last up to a year. This year is not the safety of the food, but basically the quality. So yes, you can have your canned food last longer than a year, but the quality is not going to be as good as if you canned it and you ate it within 6 months. Now, in terms of storing your canned food, very similar to dehydration. You want to make sure that you're not exposing your food to any extremes in temperature. So between 50 and 70 degrees is the ideal temperature that you want to store your jars. Where can I find that? Not close to the stove, whether top or beside the stove. You can put them in your cupboard. You can put them in a bookshelf, turn it around. At best, if you have amber jars, the amber jars are dark, so it will prevent light from getting in. So if you have those, you can store them in a cabinet, wherever they're not getting exposed to extreme temperature, extreme heat. I like canning potatoes. I can potatoes for various reasons, whether you want to make potato salad and mashed potatoes. If you have that extreme thawing and heating of your food, you'll find that they will get thin, they will get soggy, and they're going to get soft. So instead of having nice hard potato, firm potato for potato salad, you more likely get mashed potato, which is not bad. If you like mashed potato, by all means, go ahead and do that. But the extreme temperature not only soften the food, but it will affect the ability of your food to last longer. It's going to decrease that timeline for where you can store your food. So make sure you're not putting it close to any furnace, you're not putting it close to the stove, no heated pipes, or in the garage, because extreme summer temperature can affect the quality of your food. Okay, when you store your foods in your jar, you want to practice the methods first in, first out. You don't want to store so much food where you won't be able to consume it in a year, because consider you have a working pantry, you have a garden, hopefully you have a garden. So things are always moving around. Label your food. The first one you put in your pantry, those are the first ones that will come out, so you don't have things sitting there for a long time, okay? Another thing that you want to do, again, in addition to dated, you want to make sure that when you go to use your food, you're looking for signs of spoilage, right? It doesn't make sense you prepare for that long-term food storage and then 3-4 years down the line, you pick up your jar and realize that, this was a waste because I can't use it. What are some signs that you want to look for? Signs of spoilage in your jar will involve your lids flexing. When you touch it, that means they have not been sealed properly. If you have water coming out of your lids, if you have your lids rusted, if when you open your jar, you have a strong odor, or if the color changes drastically from what you have had when you previously took it out of your jar, then you realize that, okay, this food is not good. Botulism is very serious, even deadly, and it does affect canned and pressure canned food. So these are things that you want to consider. Any signs of spoilage, don't say, let me use it before it goes bad. No, just throw it out, because your health, you don't want to go through the crisis to preserve health and then lose your life eating things that are spoiled. So any form of broken lids, broken seals, spewage, these are things that you don't want to have with your jars. So bear that in mind. A good way to start, if you don't have a pressure canner or don't have a water bath canner, you can go to the store and you can get foods that are already canned in mason jar. These will have preservatives. They will have citric acid in them. That's good in a sense, because it pushes your long-term expiration date of your food a little bit, because whereas your home canned food will last up to a year before you start having that decrease in quality, your store-bought canned food will last up to 2 years. So this would have a best by date. Yeah, 2027, October 7, 2027. It does have preservatives, but this video is to help you how to have food for a long term without using any preservative. So that's it for canned food, but stay tuned, we have more for you. So the third method of food preservation that you can implement so that your food will last a long time in your survival pantry is the use of Mylar bags. What are Mylar bags? These are aluminum outside bags lined with parchment on the inside so your food does not come in contact with the aluminum. You can get them ranging from a pint size all the way up to a 5-gallon. And the thickness of the bag, you'll see it will say 3 ml or 5 ml or 10 ml. The ml that you'll see is the thickness of the bag. When I get my bag, I go to 5 ml or 10 ml because I like that it's thick, it's almost puncture resistant, and when I store them, I don't have to worry a lot about how they're being stored. Now, how long your food will last in Mylar bags? You can store food in your Mylar bags with the use of an oxygen absorber, and they will last 20 to 30 years. So you're going to dry your food, you're going to put it in here, and again, that time depending on how it's stored and if you have an oxygen absorber in your bag. What are oxygen absorbers? Depending on where you purchase your Mylar bags, they may or may not come with oxygen absorbers, but you can purchase these. You can look online, you'll see a guide how you store them based on the density of your food, like beans, anything with a lot of airspace. Of course, you're going to need more oxygen absorbers. But these come from 50 cc all the way up to 2000 cc. How much you use depending on the size of the bags and what you're putting inside your bag. When you get them, something very important that I always tell people to look for, there is a tablet inside your bag. Before you open them, it should be pink. At any time you see any variation in this pink color going towards blue, your oxygen absorbers are bad. As soon as you open this bag, you want to put them in a mason jar with a little bit of rice, a little bit of beans, because they will start absorbing oxygen almost immediately. Okay, so this is what makes your food in your Mylar bag last 20 to 30 years. And what you'll put in here, you're going to put your grains, you're going to put your beans, any form of dried food. When you think of dehydrated food, as mentioned earlier, you can extend the shelf life of some of your dehydrated food. So you go to the garden, you harvest your beans, you harvest some roots. You can put them in the Mylar bags with an oxygen absorber to extend the shelf life. If you have things that have a lot of oil, like your nuts, you don't want to put these in your Mylar bags because the oils in the nuts and the high fatty food, it does work against the oxygen absorber and it will cause your food to go rancid. So with that, you don't want to put brown rice, whole wheat flour, any form of nuts, anything that has a high fats and a lot of oils, because it doesn't really work well with the Mylar bag. For that one, you can go back to using your mason jars with the oxygen absorber for a good method of food storage. So what you will do when you get your Mylar bags, you want to make sure that you're storing them in an area that will prevent them from getting any form of puncture. The good thing is, because the bags are dark, it will help you with that light enemy that you have for your food storage. It's dark, so your food is already in a dark area. Now you want to put this where it will not get any puncture. You can store them in a tote bin. You can store them in the bottom of your cabinet. Wherever you have a level surface that nothing is going to puncture your bags, that's where you're going to put it. Even better, if you have food grade buckets, you can store your Mylar bags in that food grade bucket so you have a safe home for the food that you're preserving. And 20, 30 years, you will be able to enjoy your beans and your grains from your Mylar bags. All right, again, what can you store in here? Make sure whatever you're putting in has no moisture. We don't want any moisture, we don't want any oxygen, we don't want any damage. When you get your grains, you may have different form of pests living inside your grains. The removal of oxygen prevents those eggs from hatching, prevents those bugs from surviving, and that's why you're going to have this food lasting a long time, okay? So you get your Mylar bags, you put your food in, you put your oxygen absorber in. You can use a flat iron to create a nice thick seal. Thick seal is best, so you have no air getting in. You can use your food saver, or you can use a food sealer, whatever you have available, even a clothes iron. Put it on your iron board and run it over with the iron so you have that nice thick seal and you are good to go. Food stored for 20 to 30 years. Stay tuned. We have one more method of food preservation that I'm pretty sure that you will want to implement in your survival pantry. All right, now we are at the final stage, down to the wire. The fourth and final method that I want to share with you that you will put in your survival pantry is freeze-dried food. What are freeze-dried food? Well, if you are following a lot of meal preppers, you'll find that freeze-dried food is a technique that was started by the military to prepare meals ready to eat for soldiers that can go abroad and they'll have food when they're in the wilderness for a long time. Food stored with this method will last anywhere from 20 to 30 years, depending on the food type and how you're storing them. What this method does is it freezes your food and then it dries it, removing 98 to 99% of the moisture, which again is responsible for bacterial growth. It's responsible for food spoilage. Once the water is removed, you can store your food in Mylar bags with the use of oxygen absorbers. And then the beauty about it is when you go back and you reabsorb or you bring your food back to life, in a sense, adding warm water, it tastes almost the same as the original item that you freeze dried. So here we have some strawberries that have been freeze dried in a Mylar bags with oxygen absorber. I label and I date because you want to make sure that you are aware of whatever you're putting in your pantry and the timeline. So when I go in and I take my strawberries out and I put them in water, taking them out of the machine, the color remains the same, the texture remains the same, the size of the strawberry remains the same, and when I reintroduce moisture to them, they're going to look the same. They taste the same and even better because that sugar is being concentrated in this fruit. So you don't even have to wait to rehydrate it. You can eat the freeze-dried strawberries just as is. Not only fruits, but you can make meals ready to eat. Your grains, your greens, everything that you consume, you can put in a freeze dryer. That 20-30 year timeline, however, does not apply to certain things. Again, oils and fats does not store as long as your other types of food. So if you were to freeze dry nuts or if you were to freeze dry milk, the fat content and the oil content in these items will not guarantee that they will go that 20-year mark. So maybe 5-10 years you'll be able to get out of your freeze-dried nuts and milk. But by all means, if you do get a freeze dryer, make some oatmeal. You put it in a machine, you take it out, you crumble it. 25 years, 30 years from now, you can enjoy that oatmeal. So this method of food preservation is tried and true, and it's a wonderful method, especially if you want to get all the nutritional value of the food that you're storing. This is the way to go. But I know it's really expensive to get this machine, but hope is not all lost because you have a lot of opportunities out there that you can purchase meals ready to eat that have already been freeze dried. And I'm going to share you my top pick of emergency go-to suppliers that you can purchase not only freeze-dried food, but a lot of the supplies that you may need to get your food pantry up and running. So I'm just going to tell you this list. Valley Food Storage is a good source. ReadyWise, My Patriarch Supply, Survive to Thrive, SOS Ration, USA Emergency Food Supply, and Total Prepare. All right, so these are companies that have already stored food for the mass, and you can go in and you can purchase a lot of fruits, a lot of veggies, different things, single items or complete meals that you may want to add to your food storage pantry. In terms of storing your freeze-dried food, Mylar bags is an excellent means to store it because, again, you're not having that oxygen, you're not having that light, you're not having that moisture. When you put that oxygen absorber in, you vacuum seal or you just seal the top of your bag. You are creating that wonderful environment that will allow your food to survive for a long period. You can get these, you can put them in your tote bin also, you can put them in whatever area you may have that you're preparing for that long-term hideaway of food supply, just put them in there and you can enjoy that food later on. So dry area, no exposure to heat, no exposure to light. If I am going to consume something from my Mylar bag and I'm not going to use all of it, I'm going to put that freeze-dried food in a mason jar. Okay, you put it in a mason jar, you seal it, then you can go back and use and reseal as the food that you're using permits. All right, so tastes the same, looks the same, same consistency, just without the moisture. So freeze-dried is the way to go. Here I have a bucket of freeze-dried food that I purchased from My Patriot Supply. This is fruits and veggies, 56 serving, up to 25 years shelf life. In this bucket, I have broccoli, pineapple, strawberries, banana, green beans, beans, and corn. And I purchased this about 2 years ago. And today I'm going to open it just to show you what it looks like. All right. And I'm excited. I like food storage. I love the idea of having some form of assurance that if there was supposed to be a crisis, I will be able to provide for myself and my family. And this is a wonderful way to go. It's already in the bin for you, so I don't have to worry about where am I going to store the items that are there. So let me just get into this and we will see what it's like. And this is tight. Oh. Really dry. All right, so here is the freeze-dried pineapple, right? Emergency food store. It says up to 30 years, up to 30 years for this pineapple. And all of these are up to 30 years. Freeze-dried broccoli, right? So by God's grace, we were able to get a freeze dryer so I can prepare a lot of these meals so my family will be able to have them throughout a time of crisis. If you don't have a freeze dryer, again, go to one of these websites, check out what they have, check out the supplies that they have that you may use to stock up on your emergency food storage so that you can have that comfort of knowing that if there was a disaster to strike tomorrow, if the supply chain was supposed to be disrupted, then I will be able to survive. Because what are the things that we need? We need Jesus primarily, and then we need food and water. Stocking up on your pantry will give you that assurance of food. Not only will you be able to help yourself, but you may also be able to help someone else. All right, so we talked about 4 methods of food storage that you can use to create that long-term food storage: dehydration, canning, using your Mylar bags, and using a freeze dryer. It's not to say that you choose one and that's it. You may want to choose 2 or 3 or all 4 of these methods to stock your pantry. Whatever it is that you have available, get started right where you are. If you can use the sun to dry some produce, then by all means go ahead. If your oven is all you have, by all means go ahead and do so. Your dried grains, you can put them in a food grade bucket. You can use Mylar bags, you can use oxygen absorber so that you have the assurance of having food that will last you a long time. I hope you found this information helpful. I hope there is something here that you'll be able to implement in your survival pantry. Thank you so much for staying with me. And again, if you have any feedback, any questions or comments, leave them in the comment section below. And until next time, I will see you again on Seed Time and Harvest. Happy preparing. Bye.